Life is hard. It comes at you fast, doesn't it? So is being an entrepreneur. You see people with the cars, the boats, the homes, and the travel. What you don't see is how many times they've failed, how hard they work, and how often they bust their butts. This is the Get Real Podcast. Get Real Podcast. We have a lot going on. We talk about life, mental health, business, ups and downs. And we have on some of the most exclusive entrepreneurs in the business world. People that have done it. No BS, no pump you up mentality. Just keeping it real and raw. Let's do this. This is Get Real. And this is your host, Mark Lyford.
Welcome to Get Real. Today I'm interviewing Dean Holland. I've known Dean for many years now, and I've seen a progression which we'll talk about from when I first met Dean to where he is now in business and life. And I'm really pleased to be interviewing today. Welcome, Dean.
Hey, Mark. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're well.
I'm good, thank you. We've been talking for months about doing this since I had lunch with you last, so I'm really pleased that we've managed to get the time to do it. So yeah, the podcast is called Get Real.
Yeah.
It does what it says on the tin. So we're just going to be talking about this progression that I've seen. I think it's got to be, I've known you at least 12 years. And I personally have seen you progress from what you were 12 years ago to what you are now. And it's by any stretch pretty impressive as to what you've done. We want to talk about that and a whole bunch more. So introduce people that don't know you, what you do, a little bit about you, and then we'll take it from there, mate.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. I think 12 years ago, you probably known me go from a bit of an idiot to not so much of an idiot, hopefully, over the last 12 years. So, no, I think, so I started out, next year, actually, 2024 is actually 20 years since I first turned to the internet to look for, ways to make some extra money. And that kind of fell me into a lot of different opportunities. And eventually the thing that actually started working out for me was being an affiliate marketer, promoting other people's products. And that kind of eventually set me down a path where I was helping other people do that. So that kind of formed the very foundation of what became my first and still one of my existing companies, Internet Profits, where we help beginners essentially start and grow businesses primarily through affiliate marketing first. And then, of course, transitioning on to perhaps if they want to use their expertise to create their own products, things like that. But primarily, I think it's fair to say we focus on helping beginners get to, the point where they're generating a full-time income so they can perhaps become their own boss and go on to bigger and better things in their life. So that's kind of been my business of love and passion, I guess, for 15 or so years now, 14, 15 years. And as you know, Mark, I've even got my wife and I about 5 years ago or so, we started a cosmetics brand in the UK as well. So we've got kind of a very different side of things going on. So I think it's fair to say I've probably been involved in a lot of different things. So, happy and looking forward to having a conversation about it all. Anything you want to throw at me and we'll pick it all apart. And
I think you were right. You weren't an idiot. You were young 12 years ago when I met you. I can remember, I think you slept on our hotel room floor or wanted to at one point. You were young, simple as that. And I can remember having a conversation with you once saying you need to not drink as much of these things because you'll actually get some stuff done. But in all seriousness, I saw you turn your back, in my words, on the constant revolving launch model. I can remember seeing you in your first office, come and see you in your first office in Nottingham. And that's kind of in my head when you'd gone on your own path. And that path, I think it'd be true to say, was a damn hard path to turn you back on half decent money every month perpetually doing stuff that wasn't really building a business as such. It was putting products out there. There's nothing wrong with that. but you turned your back rightly and said, right, from different people you'd learned from, this is what I'm doing. I'm creating my own business, to where it was really hard for you, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Immensely. Yeah. So I think, it's funny looking back. I suppose I've been doing what I'm doing now for such a long time. I don't even necessarily think about those times as much, but yeah, it was, admittedly, I think I fell for a good while into, like you say, what we'd call like the product launch space, creating and launching new products, new offers, new courses multiple times a year, and kind of with the whole purpose of like, build a new fresh email list of people that were willing to listen to me, and then promote additional products, and then just keep doing that cycle. And like you say, there's nothing wrong with that model to some degree, but it definitely has its pitfalls, and that's, I was seeing the downsides more than the upsides for too long, and the big thing for me was just like the unpredictable nature of it. It was like I didn't have control over my own business. It was like all the sales and success of my business, of my launches, were in the hands of other people. And I ran into a certain few situations where, say, for example, your product launch clashes with someone else's, but that someone else happens to have a better relationship with some of the top affiliates that promote product launches. And it's like, oh, I see, I'm not going to have a successful launch, but I just spent 4 months creating this product, building up to this event. And so I did, begin to learn, like you say, I started learning from a lot of different people and seeing different ways of doing things, different models. And I did decide to turn my back on it. And you're right, it was first and foremost, not an easy decision even to turn my back on it. There was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fears around that, most notably switching off everything I knew how to make money with and trying to figure out something I hadn't known how to make money with. Could I do this? It was not like, oh, I know what to do. It's like, I think I know what to do. Let me try. And then as well, I'll be honest, there was other components that were quite scary about it. It was like, well, what am I going to do? How will I have these relationships? Will I still want to have those relationships? Will these people in the industry, will my peers that I've spent years getting to know to forge those relationships, will they all turn their back on me like I'm turning my back on this model? Will I go to events and nobody wants to talk to me? All kinds of weird, stupid things were flowing through my head. But I did go for it. And I started trying to build my own offers, my own sales processes, be responsible for my own traffic through paid advertising. Things like primarily Facebook advertising has been the one that I've really heavily focused on. And it wasn't, I'd love to just say to anyone listening that's in that situation like I was, like, oh yeah, it was so great. It was so simple. It was straightforward. But the reality was it wasn't. It took me what seems like forever to crack it, to be honest. The whole going out and getting traffic of people that haven't been in, nobody's told them to come and look at your product. Like, endorsed traffic through affiliates is really good quality traffic, generally speaking. Somebody else is recommending to their audience, like, hey, you should go and check out this guy or buy this product. We were going out onto Facebook completely unknown to more of a mass market, like where people didn't know me. And it just didn't happen. It just really did not happen. I ran into a whole number of challenges. A, people weren't buying the product. B, we couldn't even get that much traffic to begin with either, to be honest. And it was quite daunting spending money on traffic without knowing if you were going to get that money back. And that was a real big eye opener to me, going from affiliates, because obviously with affiliates promoting your product, you're paying once a sale's made. You've not really got the cost up front, whereas this was like, oh, I've got to dump money in to something I don't know what I'm doing with. Maybe something will come back, maybe it won't. And to begin with, it wasn't. And it was like, right, well, there's 10 grand gone in the last 30 days. Like, wow, like no money coming back in. Let's try again this month. Another 10 grand, 15 grand dumped in. And all you're seeing is the money coming down. And it's like nothing's really coming back. And it just like a really slow refining process, at that stage to us, trying to get better at driving traffic, trying to get better at converting the traffic. And yeah, I would dare say it probably took us a good 2 or 3 years to truly crack it, to be honest. So painful.
Yeah, I mean, people are still in that doing the model now. And we tested a few of our new AI software products out in one of the businesses I'm in partnership with, and we couldn't get certain affiliates because somebody else was launched on the day. And it's just a completely BS. It's not a business model. It might be an income model, but it isn't a business model. But you turning your back on that ultimately was daunting. I get that. And the paid traffic game is the ultimate gamble, really. If you're going to have any bigger gamble in business, I can't think of one than here's 10 grand for the month and let's see what sticks. Yeah. That's a calculated gamble that, like you said, took you ages to figure out. When did that switch? Was there a time you can think that, right, now we're not gambling as much. Now we know our return should be between this and this?
Yeah. So, well, I can tell you specifically exactly what the big change was that switched it around, because all my products, when for all the years that I've been creating products and doing product launches, they were all digital products, 100% digital, downloadable ebooks or video courses in a members area. The big turning point for me with ads, and I'm not saying we didn't have some success before this, but it was like night and day turning point, was when we started incorporating a physical element to our offer. So, my very first thing, for example, because I was testing this out, was that I took one of our digital products and I put it onto like a USB stick, like a flash drive. And so instead of selling the digital training, it was now a physical thing that we were going to ship to people's homes. And I contribute it perhaps to a physical product seeming like it, perhaps having a higher perceived value. They're actually going to receive something. They're going to hold it in their hand. But it was like just a boom. I mean, to put it in context, I think we'd managed to crack getting somewhere in the region of about 1 to 1.5% conversion rate. Certainly in the region, let's just say 1 to 2% conversion rate when we were driving paid traffic to a digital offer. We jumped up to I think initially 4-5%, like that. And it was the same product, really. It was the same training. We were selling the same thing. It was just now on a flash drive rather than. So
you doubled, if not more, you put 250% increase on that.
Yeah, just by shifting the model of how we were delivering the product, which was quite a revelation. I mean, to give credit where credit's due, that wasn't like, this big thing I thought out. I actually joined, this was at the time, quite a number of years ago now, I joined Russell Brunson's mastermind. And it was at the time, I think he just recently launched his first book. And I joined his mastermind. He's telling us about how this was booming his business. And I'm thinking, well, the only difference really conceptually here is you're sending out a book, a physical thing. But I wouldn't deem I'm a very good writer, or certainly back then I was like, I don't want to write a book. That sounds horrendous. That sounds like a huge amount of work. But is there any way I could do something similar? And that's where then this idea, this concept of like, what if I just went back, put our digital stuff on a flash drive and tried that out? So that was like this first very quick test. I mean, I literally did it within like 3 weeks of coming back from that mastermind. I spent a couple of days with him. It was like, right, I'm going to try this new thing. I've got this new idea off Russell. Let me give it a go. And that pretty much set me for the last, dare I say, 7-ish years, roughly, could be somewhere in that region, 6 to 8 years. I can't think, something like that, where it was like, right, physical products as an entry point to my business became like the thing. And I've stuck with that this whole time. It's just now, instead of the flash drives, we now have physical printed things like a book or more of a manual type thing.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's perceived value? Do you think it's we are bombarded via email, social media for everything digital, and it sets you apart? Do you think it's that your stuff is around people's desks and offices as a reminder, or is it just a combination of all of those things?
Yeah, I think all of those things are probably relevant, to be honest. I think in terms of just upfront initial turning strangers into customers on through paid ads, I do think the physical product holds more tangible value is one thing. And I also think there's this almost like hard to quantify aspect of this that's like, a certain level of increased credibility comes with a physical thing. I think, especially when you're going out again, I think there's a vast difference in traffic sources between affiliates that have an email list of people that are looking to make money online or start an online business versus cold traffic on paid advertising. I think there's such a vast difference that I think that increase of credibility plays a significant part in, especially now, I've got a book, I think having a book, being an author, naturally increases a huge amount of credibility. And I would say, just based on things that we see, over years of seeing comments that come from like the general public that see things, I do think there's still, even though, you and I and people listening perhaps have a lot of experience of seeing digital products. We understand ebooks are a digital product. We understand video courses are great value in the right hands. But I think still the mass population still doesn't have like the same level of understanding around digital products. I think things like Amazon, which now almost seems like second nature. Amazon having ebooks on Kindle, Amazon Kindle readers, have things like that have massively helped more mass adoption of digital products. But still, even with that, they think most people don't think of that as an ebook or a digital product. They think of it as being it's a Kindle. It's a book on Kindle. So I still think there's still a huge lack of awareness and understanding around like the type of products that digital product businesses do. And so I think there's just this huge lift of credibility in something around there being a physical product that seems to be quite significant.
Yeah, I mean, I was interviewing somebody else last week, and I mentioned they're Kevin Long. He's a great book publisher. Gets people publishing their own books within 17 days. It is, and I was saying to him, I mean, I've had a Kindle, and one of the big things that I struggle to prioritize is reading. The idea of reading a book a week is still something I want to do. But what's changed for me is the new Kindle Scribe. I don't know if you've seen this.
I can't say I have, to be honest, no.
So this is the new Kindle Scribe. And what is great about it is you can write notes on any book, literally write with a pen.
Oh, right, okay.
You've got separate notebooks that you can literally write on. I was in Portugal for one of my passions of pigeons, as you know, and I did an interview down there with a very famous guy, and I used this to write notes and ideas for questions. And then literally you can email that to your email address. It'll convert all of your written text to normal digital text, and you can edit as a PDF. Plus, it's a great reader, but that perceived value of a book, I mean, that's only a minuscule amount of books I've got. People like to have a book still.
Yeah.
It's funny, before
definitely.
We started, I was trying to find yours. It is there somewhere, but I don't quite know where it is. But it is that perceived thing. So that was the shift. Like, I've been talking to you for years about what I'm finally doing now with Real Entrepreneur. And to me, I was saying to my business partners, you know them all, on the AI prompt core dynamics stuff we're doing, paid traffic, we've got to be looking at that, but it's making that shift. It is the holy grail, but you've got to be prepared for it to take a while to kick in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, if I was to start again today, I would crack it a lot quicker. But because I think, and I think this is probably really important to mention, the silly mistake I made in amongst all of that. I mean, I know I just said, I did join Russell Brunson's mastermind in the end, but I actually joined that more out of frustration because it was taking me so long to seemingly get nowhere. And it was like, wow, I've walked away from what I did know into something that I don't know. I thought I could figure it out. My perception was at that stage, it can't be that different, a bit naive, to be honest with you, Mark. And it was like, a bit naive, can't be that different. Like, I've got stuff that already converts, it works. I've got great products. All we're kind of doing is changing the traffic source. That was the way I was thinking back then, naively. I didn't anticipate it being as difficult as it was.
No, I mean, I saw a shift. I remember when at the time you joined Russell's mastermind, I definitely, as a friend, saw a shift in you. Everything, not just your business, but in you, your mentality.
Yeah.
Everything changed. And then obviously that's great, but you've still got to go and implement it and do it. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And obviously you teach people. So I'm not dissing affiliate marketing in any way, shape, or form, but to scale a business like I want to with Real Entrepreneur, paid traffic has got to be the thing. To scale it depends what. Let's define a little bit more what I'm saying. You've got a couple of different levels of people's aspirations in business. You've got people that want to be able to work from home, and none of these are wrong. It's just what different people's levels of aspirations are. You've got people that want to be able to quit their job, work from home, enjoy time with their friends and family, and work from home and make money enough to pay everything and then live their life.
Yeah.
And that's great. You and me haven't worked for anybody in countless years.
Yeah.
And despite all of my past hurdles, I would never choose to go and do a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not in our DNA.
No, that's it. Yeah.
So, and then you've got, you and I both know big, heavy hitting affiliates. That's all they do.
Yeah.
That do massive numbers, and they've scaled the affiliate side of it. That's another level. And I think it depends what type of person you are, what type of business you want, what life you want ultimately. But what you've done is you've scaled with paid, where there's no way you couldn't have your business now. It's setting it out in black and white. You couldn't have your business now that you've got to the level you've got it. And again, there's always somebody bigger. We always know.
Yeah, of course.
With way more numbers. It's all relative to our stuff. But the level of business you've got now, you couldn't have done without paid traffic.
Yeah. No, not at all. Not at all. Not with the consistency as well. I mean, just for context, I guess, to paint a picture here. I mean, even when I was doing the product launch model, I was never like a big product launch. I didn't have the biggest launches at all, by no stretch of the imagination. I mean, some of my most successful launches were probably between 1,000 to 1,500 units. I know this, again, there's always people doing bigger. There's people doing thousands of units, especially back then. Today, as it stands today, not relying on a single anybody. I mean, unless I choose to, I don't talk to anybody, to be honest, outside of my office and team, keep myself to myself, fully self-reliant. We are averaging selling between 900 to 1,000 books every month now, every 30 days.
And that's a tap system, as I call it, a tap, right? So it doesn't matter the numbers, to a degree, the numbers in are irrelevant, right? This could be, ultimately, the larger you get, the easier it becomes in a way, in that if you have a bad month, it's not as impactful. And you're building up to this. So I remember when you started with paid traffic, I think I'm right, it was like literally $1,000 budget to test.
Yeah.
Dollars a day.
Yeah.
Test.
Yeah, that's it.
So you're shipping between 900 and 1,000 books a month now. Yeah. And because you've been doing it, that's the advantage you've got in the time and the longevity of it. Your numbers.
Yeah.
And that's the power of what we're talking about with paid traffic. You can say for every $10,000 spent, obviously you always get some anomalies maybe, but throughout the year, for every $10,000 spent, I know my return on investment will be X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might get harder. I know when we had lunch, you said that it was costing more to acquire a customer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's probably a combination of advertising costs are higher. And your book, which is a great book, you've had that book for 3 years.
Yeah. I think it's going on to 4. Yeah.
So, but your numbers, the way you can sit down on a Monday morning and think, right, based on all of these years or months, should be getting this back in. It's going to take me it's always the case, any business, how much is it going to, how quickly can I get my money back and go to profit? And within a day that should be.
Yeah.
That's a system.
Yeah.
You've cracked the system to know. And that's the great thing about it, because like you said, you don't rely on anybody. You rely on your advertising agency to do the job right for you, and rely on you and your team to make sure the products and the customers are happy. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
that
the dream.
is ultimate freedom.
Yeah. 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 No, you're right. 100%. Yeah. No, this is what the dream was all those years ago. This is what I turned my back on the product launch side of things to create. And yeah, like you say, here we are. But I mean, I do want to balance, because I think you touched on it there. Obviously, the show's called Get Real. There's clear advantages, and I think we're highlighting them there. I just want to balance it and deliver the real piece as well. It's like, it's not that this is 100% perfect. This has its challenges as well. The number of times over the last few years, I think in the last 4 years, 3 times I've either been going about my day thinking I've got the perfect business system, and all of a sudden in an instant, Facebook shut me down. Oh, violated ad policies. Bam. Oh, crap. Like, we went from spending 100,000 a month getting 1,000 customers to now that's gone in an instant, So there's a challenge. Oh, we got to overcome that. We get back up and running. Okay. But we were out of business for a few days, and like you say, cost of advertising rising as well. So there's definite other elements here. Let's be real. It's not, this is superior, but
we're not painting it as it's easy. The podcast is called Get Real, and we're going to talk about some of the mistakes you've made in a little while, because it's important. One of the reasons I decided that Get Real was going to be called Get Real is because I'm sick and tired of seeing on timelines. When you and I started, if you said you wanted to be an entrepreneur, certainly within my realms, you were laughed at. If you said you wanted to be a footballer, people didn't laugh.
Yeah, true.
Now, seemingly, a lot of people, everyone whose dog wants to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. The question of, are entrepreneurs made? Can they be created, or are you born that way? I think people can become one. I've known many people that have left normal corporate and become an entrepreneur. But the idea with social media and like, my kids are TikTok this and stuff that I feel quite old, if I'm honest. TikTok's on my list because some of the traffic people are getting is insane. Anyway, stop feeling like an old fart for a minute, Mark. It's all, there's too much BS about being an entrepreneur. Yeah. If you look through your Instagram or TikTok, or there's young kids driving around in Ferraris, nothing wrong with Ferraris, supermodels around them, mansions, beaches, private jets. Half of that stuff is false. You can go to places and hire them for a couple of hours. Yeah. Pretend you're wherever. The biggest mind-blowing one of Netflix I saw is one of the studios had a high-quality TV on a wall and a toilet seat. Have you seen this?
No, I don't think I have.
If you hold a toilet seat a certain way in front of a TV with the sky on it, it makes it look like you're in a private jet.
No way.
Because you're near the window. Where have we become where you've got to fake being on a private jet?
Jeez, that's insanity.
So you've been through it all. I've been through it all. You learn far more from your mistakes than you do successes. Yeah. And that's what this is all about. So let's talk about some of the things. I remember you making this big shift, and maybe you went a little bit too quick on the shift in certain ways. Yeah. I remember when you moved to your offices. It's not relevant now because you see, everything's great. There's always going to be troubles. We know there's always going to be things crop up, but and all the time I've known you, you're doing the best you've ever been. Yeah. Yeah. But you went and said, right, I need a separate office. You went and got the offices. Maybe it was a little bit too quick. Yeah. Maybe it's too big.
Yeah. 100%.
You're okay now with it, but what are the mistakes you think you've made and you wouldn't do again? Maybe timing. I'm not saying
Yeah.
have, but it was maybe a little bit too. What can you point to that for people to learn from?
Yeah, definitely. I would say in the transition that we're talking about, going from what I did do to a different way, I would say if I could go back and do it again, I would make the transition smoother by not just turning off what I had working and going in a different direction. That was one thing. It was like, well, I had something that was working. Yeah, okay, I wanted to go a different way, but I kind of went, right, cut the cord, that's gone. Let me go this way. And like I say, it didn't work as quick as I wanted. So this is all gift of hindsight. I thought I was just going to turn in a different way and that this would be working. If I could go back with the experience, it was like, no, I should have kept the money coming in over here whilst I was figuring this out over here. So I think there was I could have made that transition a little smoother or managed it a little better. But, my wife always jokes. She said, you really are all or nothing. It's like, I don't operate in that way. That's just not who I am. But I mean, was it the sensible thing? Worked out in the end, but maybe there was a bit of a mistake in how brutally I went, right, done, go over here. So that was one thing. I definitely think, and you kind of just alluded to it there, and to be fair, I've made this mistake a number of times. I tried to go too big too soon. It was like, where I'm sitting now, obviously on camera you can't see, but I know you've been here, Mark. I'm in a 2,500 square foot offices now, and at one stage, I had some desks in here and there was 3 of us working in this office. I mean, it's an office. I'm in a building. There are 4 of these blocks in this one building. So 4 companies in this building that have the same space as me. One of them has about 50 staff and they're still very comfortably working in this same area. I had 3 or 4 of us at one stage. I mean, even now there's only 6 of us, even at this stage. And, my office has cost me 70 odd grand a year, like dollars, like $100,000 a year, so it's like, I've also gone too extreme in certain cases. It was like, right, I really want to go in this direction. I've got this vision. I've got this view. I should have kept outgoings to a minimum. I mean, there was no problem running and operating my business from home in my home office, minimal outgoings. So I think that was a huge mistake. I mean, some of this is laughable, some of the stuff I did. I mean, talk about probably having too much money in the bank at once.
Close to wondering how you're going to get through again. Not in the last few years, but I can remember I've spoke to you and you said it was close.
Yeah. Oh yeah. God. Yeah. It was just, I just took too big of a risk on things. I am a risk taker, but it was like, I think there's a level of naivety in some of my decisions early on, which, I can always balance that out and say, well, maybe it was that naivety that made me do these things, which got me here. But, again, this is the gift of hindsight, looking back and being able to share these things with others to hopefully save them.
Overheads are the key, aren't they? It doesn't matter how they made up. Overheads are the key to any business. If your overheads are there and it doesn't matter what, you've got to pay them. You've got staff, good staff, great. I'd certainly favor staff over premises from the purposes. You've got a great offices and it's all good now because the other company's running from there as well. And it's all justified very nicely. And it's a lovely space. And I'd love one like that as well. But going back to your all or nothing approach, I understand why that was an issue. But there's also it's a very powerful thing in that it's a similar thing I've got without talking about what we're doing too much, but it's relevant. And I'll say what we're doing with the Prompt Core Dynamics. I've got 3 business partners. So it's a bit different on that, right? We've been putting it out into some of the well-known platforms to test it, to get feedback. And we've got a nice little community of people with that. But there's always a danger, which I'm very aware of being stuck into that. What you did is you cut it was hard. You cut the cord and you said, that's it. I'm hoping what I've said to the guys, my partners, to do is we carry on doing it. One of my partners, Matt's great in that arena, webinar stuff we're focusing on. And then I'm hoping with the software stuff, I'm going to take the reins and start being in charge of the paid traffic, so there can be a couple of us working on that transition.
Yeah.
But cutting the cord sometimes is powerful, because it's the same why people who have well-paid jobs don't make that switch. It can be comfortable sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not advising people to go and quit well-paid jobs to have nothing coming in and start, but I'm just saying sometimes there is a power in cutting that, because the type of person you are, seem to me, your focus on building what you've got now would, yes, bringing the money in was great, but your focus wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah,
because ultimately maintaining that level of income would have cost X amount of time if it was, say, half of your month.
Yeah.
So
very true.
There is a power in it. Like, it's the same thing I did. We just discussed this personally when we were at lunch a few months ago. I've made the break to where I'm only focusing on Real Entrepreneur and Prompt Core Dynamics. That's it.
Yeah.
And the great thing with Prompt Core Dynamics, I've got business partners. So there is a power in focus. And what you did, yes, you may have been crapping yourself about where's the money coming from, but that's also a motivator to make it work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
You know?
Yeah, I know when I made certain leaps, I was like, right, okay, I've got enough cash flow in the bank that if I don't make a penny, like literally not a penny, for 12 months, I can survive. I'll be okay. And I was, in my head, I was like, that's never going to happen though, right? I'm not going to go a year without making any money. I burned through that money in about 4 months. And it became quite a scary situation. And
so again, it's all learning, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, that's the good thing, right? I think it's great. We get to have a conversation about mistakes and lessons learned. But the truth is, and I think you maybe said this a bit ago, is like the best lessons I've learned to even have these conversations like this, looking back, is like because of the mistakes. Like there's very few success. Like, yeah, you learn from your successes because it's like, okay, that worked, log that. But I tell you, it's almost laughable. I bet so many people can relate to this. Is like, what's weird is the things you learn from succeeding, you don't tend to keep using them. The amount of times I look back and I think, well, that thing worked. Why aren't we continuing to do it? It's like, oh, because we moved on to try something else. It's almost like your successes are short-lived. They happen, you celebrate them maybe for a very brief period of time, but then the next day life goes on again. It's kind of like, I remember the day I got married. It's like, wow, you had this huge build-up to this huge day. You get married, the next morning you wake up and you're like, well, that was nice. Now what? I guess we carry on as we always were.
It was a great day.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But and that's kind of how I feel about successes in business. It's like, okay, you build up to this thing. You've been planning this thing. It happens. If it works, amazing. We celebrate. But then the next day you get up and you've got to carry on. There's a new day here now.
That's the type of people we are, and other people who are listening to this will be. It's like, right, okay, done that. What next?
Yeah. So it's like you don't tend to, and it's that in and of itself is a mistake. That's something that's like when you've got something that works, how can you keep doing more? How can you do more of it? How can you keep using whatever that lesson is, whatever you figured out that worked there? How can I keep doing it? But the reality is when we fail or something goes wrong or doesn't work, we tend to take a step back, depending on the pain or the severity of the mistake or the situation. You tend to step back and assess that a little more than you would a success generally. So I really believe like all these things that went wrong over the years, they have created the business and the person I am today, because it's like, wow, that hurt so much. I'm not going to do that again. I mean, one of my big things over the years, and I think this is where some of these mistakes come back to, I've been notoriously bad with money throughout my life. Like, because I didn't used to, when I didn't have any, I used credit cards. And I used credit cards and loans until they wouldn't give me anymore. Once I was at rock bottom, it's like, wow, I got to get myself out this mess. But then once I made money, I didn't know how to deal with having money. So I've just always been notoriously bad with money, to be honest. And I think that got me into some of these mistakes why I'm like, oh, this money will last for a year. No, it lasted 4 months. Or like,
what shifted that? What changed?
Realizing that I kept going through the same damn mistakes. Like, oh, I've made a bunch of money. I'll take my foot off the gas and go and enjoy it. I'll go on holidays all the time. I'll do this. I'll drink stupid amounts.
I remember
constantly.
that phase of your life as well. Holidays all the time.
Yeah, there was. It was like just stages where it was like, wow, I made a load of money. Let me go and spend it all.
But this is age it's experience.
Yeah.
And it's all them failures that if you learn from them, they'll work.
Yeah, definitely.
Work out. I mean, everything you've been through has led you to where you are now, and that's
absolutely. But make no mistake, I had to physically go out of my way to learn how to better manage money. I mean, even down to, I remember the first time it happened, it wasn't the only time. I remember getting my first more sizable tax bill. And again, small in comparison to some situations, but it was like a 30-something £1,000 tax bill. And for that, up until that point, my tax bills had perhaps been 3,000, 5,000, and I never saved for tax. What I used to do is it'd be like, oh, well, I'll make that money next month and I'll pay it. That's how I lived. And then a tens of thousands tax bill came in and I was like, oh, crap. Like, now what do I do? And I remember having to phone HMRC here in the UK and be like, I don't have the money. What does this mean? Am I bankrupt? Like, do I have to shut my business down? I didn't know what happened in those situations. What happens now? And thankfully they enabled, because I'd never been in that situation, they enabled me to set up a payment plan with them. And over the course of like 6 or so months, I paid off my taxes. That was a big turning point because I was like, wow, I can't end up in that situation again. I was even thankful, like, thank God it was only 30 odd thousand. If it had been more, like, wow, it would have taken that long to pay it back. I wouldn't have been allowed to. So it was like, right. And I just started having to study how to manage money. And I give props to one book that really helped me with this, a book called Profit First by a guy called, I think it's Mike, I'm going to butcher the surname, Mike Michalowicz is the name, I think, but Profit First. And that, I don't do the full thing, but it was like how you can have like in my online bank, I have multiple little pots now, so I've got 3 bank accounts. One of them is called tax, and every month. So I've got like this, all my money comes into one that I call expenses. Then I distribute money into different bank accounts now. So I'm like, there's tax pot, there's, this pot, there's my expenses. So it's just like I literally had to spend the time to learn and just,
discipline.
Again,
it's another discipline to learn, isn't it?
Definitely. And that was a big turning point for me, to be honest, because I think that was just one of my major downfalls. It was like young, naive entrepreneur. I thought every pound I made was mine, like dumb, stupid. And, just again, like grow up a little bit, and again, you've said this a couple of times. I think it's very relevant to say here. I was very fortunate that when I got started, when I said at the introduction, it was almost 20 years ago, that put me like just under 20 years of age. When I stumbled on this online business world, it was like when I quit my job because I was able to go full time, I was in my mid-20s. So it's like, yeah, I was young and stupid, young, dumb, naive, lack of money skills, lack of everything in that sense. Today, last month I turned 39. So it's like I've had to do a lot of very quick growing up, I'd say, over the last 10 years, because otherwise I was going to lose everything I'd created faster than I probably got it.
Oh, mate, I've been there, 24, age of 24, no success of any quantity before and doing 2 million a year. That vanished quick.
Yeah.
Various other reasons. So, it's, let's fire through some more questions. What does success mean to you now, mate?
Ooh, success to me. Well, funny enough, I've got my own little mental thing right now that I'm striving towards, because at the turn of this year, I said, wow, I'm 40 next year. And I don't know what it is about 40, but I'm like, I want to be in the best situation in every way. So success to me now, 3 words: healthy, wealthy, free. Healthy. I'm going to the gym and playing sports 4 times a week now. I started 6 weeks ago. I'm like, right, it's time to get myself in shape, because I just work because I love what I do. So it means I don't do anything else. So I'm trying to change that. So healthy, trying to focus on my health a lot more. And that comes first now. I put that to the top of the list. Wealthy. I have a bit of a different perspective on what I'm striving for in the financial sense these days. I think I'm playing a few different games to what I used to play. As long as at this moment in time, if my bills are paid and everyone that works with me as part of the team is taken care of and they're good, and, my wife and I are good, everything's good, I'm not looking to cash out and make loads of money at this stage, because I've done so much of what I wanted to do. You know, my vision board 10 years ago, I've got it all. I've got the nice house. I've got all the stuff. I'm not interested now. I'm building something for the future. And that's more so where our cosmetics company comes in. So I'm just building for the future now in some ways and loving the process. So that's where the healthy, wealthy part comes in. And then there's free. And what I mean by free of the success element to me now is like, I work a lot, like, and not begrudgingly, right? I mean, I treat it like a job. I mean, I'm up at 5-6 a.m. every morning now. I'm
ridiculous behavior.
Yeah, I've changed. I was a nighttime person. I'm literally up at 5-6 a.m. I'm in the office anywhere between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. generally speaking. 2-3 days a week, I'm here till 5 p.m., 6 p.m. sometimes. So I'm doing, 10-hour days, 12-hour days sometimes. Not every day. Some days I finish early afternoon. I go and play badminton, whatever. But generally speaking, I'm notching up about 60 plus hours a week of work that I do in 5 days a week, 6 days a week. Happily, right? Happily. I love what I do and I'm very driven at the moment. But there's certain elements, make no mistake, where it's like, okay, my team's not that sizable at the moment whereby I'm not needed, right? I'm still very much needed in what we do. And that's okay for now. But what I strive towards and what I want for the future is that everything operates with or without me. Like, I want to be a part of it, and I will be, but I want it to run without me and grow without me. That's what I'm now striving towards, because my business for most of my online career, my business career has revolved around me as the centerpiece, and it's all been me and required me. I'm the product, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the expert. We are gradually moving towards where it's like, so much of my business now runs without me, that I don't have to work as much as I do now. I do it because we're working on a lot of stuff. But the free element that I'm striving towards for ultimate success is like the businesses grow without me here at all, pretty much.
That's the ultimate success. And that's one of the hardest things to do, because finding the personal people to make that happen, and they're going to work as diligently as you to make that happen, is a big thing. I'm not saying it's impossible, and that doesn't take away the staff you have working. Everybody has their own skills. You've got a great group of staff, but that's the next big challenge, isn't it?
Definitely. And this, these are the sort of things I'm studying at the moment. The books I'm reading, if you saw the stack next to my desk, it's like, how to better train staff, how to create project management systems that run, efficiently, how to, all those kind of things now is the elements that I'm studying, because that's the piece I don't yet have, and I don't
have
yet.
You got
fully
any of Alex Charfran's books?
I haven't, to be honest. No, I met Alex in Russell's Inner Circle mastermind over a year or so, but I can't say I've ever studied his.
He's I had an interview with him a while ago on Get Real, and when you were saying what your next plan is, he would definitely be someone I would be talking to.
Yeah.
He's I highly rate him at taking businesses of your level to the next level without you having to be there all the time.
Right.
Just a point.
Yeah, no, great point. Yeah, no, thank you for that.
So you talked about masterminds. What about mentors? Who have been I know you've had a few. What do you think about mentors, how powerful they are?
Yeah, I think this is one of my silly mistakes, and I do keep making this one. I think I'm naturally a loner, right? is the truth, right? I'm very content and happy in my own company. And I think this is why, probably back in the day, I used to drink quite a bit, because in social situations, I never felt comfortable. So I drink, and that would make me just go crazy and silly. But still to this day, it's like a mistake that I continue to make is I don't get access to mentors or masterminds as often as I should do, because I kind of get a bit stuck in my ways of like, oh, I'll figure this out, because that's where I came from. Like, I didn't have the money for mentors. I had to figure everything out. I had to learn a bit of everything. And I still get stuck in that phase sometimes. It's like, yeah, you know, still to this day, I mean, this is part of having a team. I'm not great. I'm working on it. I'm not great at delegating even to the people that are around me. You know, it's like, oh, I'll do it. I don't want to, you know, they're working on that. I'll crack on with it. You know, and it's the same with mentors. I mean, every time I've had mentors or put myself in a situation like a mastermind program or something significant, it has been transformational. But stupidly, I don't do it that much. You know, it's almost this weird thing. And I suppose you know, at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons is in the earlier days, it's because I couldn't afford it. In these later days, it's because I've probably had a handful of quite terrifying experiences of seeing my money disappear. Granted, my own mistakes, whatever, but sometimes I think I fall into this, even on a subconscious level, of like, ooh, it's quite scary to pay some of these fees. Because I guess, you know, at this stage, it's like, you know, God, I look back and think, wow, the first mentor, I was so scared to spend like $1,000. You know, now it's like, I can't get access to the help that I need for $1,000 anymore. I mean, you talk about Alex Scharf, and I think, no, I'm sure his high-end program that I'd probably need access to is, you know, 10, 20 grand, maybe more. You know, it's like, these are the kind of fees now. I mean, when I'm no longer in Russell's mastermind, but I know because he closed it down for a year or two, when he reopened it, I think it ranges anywhere from 50 grand a year to 250,000 a year now. You know, and it's like, the people that have the answers that I probably need now, it's like quite scary to spend that kind of money.
Isn't it funny that it's all relative though, isn't it? Because
it is.
$1,000 was a lot of money to you, you couldn't do it, or the people weren't available for that. And then you've just upped the notch. But you've also said that it's been transformational. But then you also know the right people to go to now. Your filter for BS is... So, you know, it's difficult. I mean, I said about it in my book, I've said before, my first mentor never cost me a penny. Yeah. He wasn't a mentor in a specific area, but he was the sole reason I went into the adult online business, and he pushed me to that. And that's what was greatly successful. But since he passed away, I haven't really had one. But I do know with Real Entrepreneur, when I get to certain points, I will be implementing definitely. Like I know first thing to crack is paid traffic, and then get over a period of time, get to a certain level of turnover. And definitely Alex is on my list of being on there for when I get to a certain level. He won't touch people doing less than, I can't remember what the amount is, but decent amount. So not that he won't touch them or you're scum. It's just that he helps people go to a certain level. Interesting on the mentors thing, isn't it? What's your biggest passion now, mate, these days?
It's interesting. I think this again has been one of those things over the last year or so that I've been asking myself. I actually had I mean, I won't go too far down the rabbit hole of this, but I went through quite a bit of personal stuff over the last sort of 5-6 years. And in the end, I ended up with like a therapist for a little while, like, going through a bit of therapy.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. We've all been there.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It was actually a fantastic thing. I sometimes question right now whether it'd be a good idea to have a therapist once a week to speak to, just to, not dump that on anyone else. But the reason I bring that up is there's out of everything we spoke about, I mean, for 6 or 12 months, I was meeting with this therapist at least once a week. And one day she asked me this question. This is the one thing that sticks to me for the whole experience. She said, "What do you do for yourself?" Because, a lot of the conversations, it was like, well, I want to make sure my team's okay. And I want to, make sure my wife's okay. And I want to make sure I look after our clients and customers. And she just asked, that was the question. What do you do for yourself? And at the time, I couldn't actually answer the question. I was like, I don't really know. Now you ask me, that's quite a strange question, really, to step back and think about, like, what do I do for me?
Powerful question, though, eh?
It is very much, to the point where like it literally has stuck with me. I can't tell you the other question she asked me. That one really just hit home. I was like, wow. And I think at that time, honestly, I couldn't name a single thing. It was like, I don't know. You know, at this stage in time, I feel like I'm doing a lot for everybody else. I can't tell you what I do for me. I don't have a hobby. I don't have, outside of doing business, I don't have any interests. I guess I stay that busy that I don't really see many people. You know, I don't have a huge group of friends. So it was like quite a strange, it was like quite an impactful thing. And so like over the last couple of years, I've really tried to focus a bit more on like, you know, what am I doing? Where do I find enjoyment? Do I have hobbies? If not, what hobbies can I get? And yeah, it's made me try a few little funky things. I mean, I spent some ridiculous amount of money on a couple of bonsai trees about 6 or 12 months ago, because I was like, I loved bonsai trees when I was a kid. Maybe I should spark that hobby back up. So I tried that, you know, and that's kind of gone a little bit quiet. I just water my bonsai trees every day now. I don't really do much with them. But I think where I'm finding a lot of enjoyment and passion now, I've refound the passion in business, because I think it was fair to say at a point it kind of felt like survival. I'm in business for survival. That's where things were for a good while. And I lost the passion. It was just like, I'm working every day just to pay the bills. I've refound my passion, which is nice. It's nice to get up every day and want to come here and work. But I think a part of that has come because I also take time for myself outside of it. So like I said, what I'm probably enjoying and passionate about at the moment is like achieving that outcome of success that you asked me about earlier. So it's like healthy, wealthy, free. And I've put healthy at the top of the list because that's the thing that's been at the bottom of the list.
There's no point in anything else, is there? We all know of people, certainly the older you get, the more people falling down with horrible illness, and it doesn't matter how much money you got in the bank. If you end up in a box, well, the only thing you can leave is a legacy, which is a whole other thing, but it doesn't matter to you personally if you're worth a few million quid and you're dead. That's
it. Yeah. And I think just, you know, again, it's some of the experiences over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it's been. When you pretty much lose everything, you realize that you're always going to be okay. It's like you can, and there's no better person to talk to than yourself on that. You know better than else. It's like we're sitting here, we're living, breathing, having a conversation. We wake up in the morning, we've got a roof over our head. We're going to put food on the table. We're always going to be okay. But I think that takes experiences of losing it all to realize that.
Oh, absolutely, mate. I mean, I've said to a few friends of mine in the last few months, I've had this shift of focusing on certain things, talked about it before on podcasts, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be business-wise, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm the best I've been in a long time.
Yeah.
Mentally, great partner in Gabby. And you have to, and certainly things I've experienced sitting in a prison cell for 2 years, as people know, you survive that, you can pretty much survive anything. And it's the same. Everyone's got their own different level. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
The two things out of the two therapists I saw back in 2006, I saw a CBT therapist. I went into the CBT therapist once, really nice lady in Burton-on-Trent. And I said, I just got to stop thinking about something. I won't repeat what it was because it's not relevant, or I shouldn't say it. Really, I'm quite in the idea of being real and open and honest, but there's certain things. It was let's just say it was thinking of my ex-wife in a certain situation with a new boyfriend, and I got to stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And out of all of the whatever it cost me of that, the pink fluffy elephant came through. She did the pink fluffy elephant. Think about a pink fluffy elephant. Telling your brain not to think about something will not work. Yeah. That was my CBT experience, but shortly before the worst time of my life, going to prison, my other therapist, he said, and at the time I'm like, paying money for this.
Yeah.
It will all be okay. That's what he said. Yeah. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So yeah, it's, but it's funny, isn't it? How if we'd have had this interview 10 years ago, same for me, 20 years ago, what does success mean to you would have been a whole other answer.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it would have been like 2 nice cars on my driveway, a few different houses, nice
And none of that's
clothes.
wrong. None of that's wrong.
No, not at all.
It's funny how you shift the older you get.
Yeah, definitely. I think just you want what you don't have, and once you've had certain things, it's like, oh, that's not quite what I thought it was going to be. It was nice, and I don't begrudge it. I love nice cars still now. Like those things, great. And I'm sure if you don't have them yet, and that's a goal of yours, hearing someone sit here and say, oh, that's not, whatever, it's like, shut up. It's because you've had it. It's easy for you to say. And it's true. Yeah, I've had it. So it's easy to say. But I think just as you go through life and you experience different things, you start to realize what matters more, what's important, what you can take with you, what you can't. And at the end of the day, I just look at a lot of stuff now that you don't actually own anything. It's like, you're only here for this amount of time. It's like, look, experience it and do whatever you want to do with it. Like literally,
I mean, at the end of the day, money is freedom. And another old friend of mine who's no longer with me, he used to say, just money's a tool. And that's all it is.
It is, yeah.
And it's very true. We've touched on it. It's a question I ask every one of my guests. Let's talk a little bit about mental health. I'm a big passionate believer in that. Certainly men should talk about it more. I have discussed it at length. So kind of 2 questions in one. What do you do to deal with stress? And what's your journey been with mental health? You talked about the therapists you've had. You've said how effective they were on you.
Yeah. I think, I'll be honest, I think I'm pretty, and I'm sure maybe a lot of people think this, like I can deal with a lot of stress. I feel like I've dealt with a lot of stress and dealt with it poorly at times. That's created me to be quite tough in that sense these days. Because again, it's like, look, I've been battered and beaten down. It's like, what more can happen, really? It's like, take it all away. Okay, there we go. I'm still okay. I'll build it back up. So it's like, I've learned to deal with a lot of stress quite effectively in some ways. I'm not saying that's necessarily healthy, but it's like, I just seem to deal with it. And that's business stress. I can deal with a lot of business stress. Where things really folded for me over the last 5 years or so was where it became more than business stress. It was more personal, like family related stuff. And that was just like too much. And that's where it was like, I wasn't dealing with stuff. I started drinking a lot again, I was not even being pleasant, I guess, to live with for my wife. Nothing beyond just being like not pleasant or short-tempered, things like that. But I think, and I said it a moment ago, having had the experience of a therapist, I think it could be a healthy, wise idea for someone in business to always have some level of somebody, and not just like, oh, my wife or whatever. It's nice that you can, it's nice. I can talk to my wife. We've got an amazing relationship. I think sometimes, especially for men, I would say more so from my experience, we don't generally want to burden our partner or other people with the stress we're feeling inside. So I think where therapy, I think, was A, good for me at that time, but B, could probably be wise for me and many others on an ongoing basis, is just having somebody that has no other purpose in your life in a roundabout way other than to be there to support you in that way. It's like, because if you do feel like, well, I naturally don't want to worry my partner, or I don't want to burden my friends or whatever with the things that I'm thinking about or feeling inside, I don't think the healthy thing is to keep it inside, put it that way. And so I think from the experiences that I've had, I think it's a very, very healthy idea. And I do love the fact that we seem to be in an age now where it's more acceptable to even speak about. I mean, I'm sure all different countries are the same, but you and I both live in the UK. It's been predominantly throughout my life, even as young as I am, I've always witnessed that, like, you have to be strong. There's even this expression, man up, and you know, a man isn't supposed to cry, or, you know, talk about his feelings and, you know, get on with it, you know, pull your pants up and get on with it. You know, there's always been that sort of mentality in society, but I'm glad that it feels like there's a huge shift has been occurring.
Massive, huge shift. Certainly in the UK, nowhere near as much as it should be in other places. There's certainly within Europe, some other countries that it's still not there. But definitely it's changing, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be, you know. Without wanting to bring this podcast down, the stat still is that this biggest killer of men under 50 is still suicide, and that is something that's, you know, not what we need to be seeing.
No.
But this is where, you know, like, people listening to this, we talked about therapists, we've talked about hobbies as well. Certainly for me, over the last 10 years, not sitting in front of a computer all day as we normally do is a massive thing. And actually, like, I was having a crappy day for no real reason a few weeks ago. For me, I've got, outside of family, you know, I've got too many dogs. I love my dogs. Walking the dog. Just going out and walking the dog is a therapy in a way, because it gives you that time to think. I think as entrepreneurs, we all think too much all the time. We don't have that downtime to not. You've got your sport now, so you're at the time you're doing that, you're not really thinking about much else. Thinking about doing that. That's important. And therapy can, yes, if people listening to this think they need a therapist, go and see one. It will be, you've got to find the right one. Some don't.
Yeah.
That's great. But also there's other therapies, like we talked about the hobbies. You know, like a couple of weeks ago when I was having this particularly crappy day, I said, you know what, I'm just going to go and spend an hour with my pigeons. Most people think pigeons, rats in the sky, whatever. It's been a passion of mine since a kid. I went and spent an hour out there, not really doing much. My mentality completely shifted.
Yeah.
I came back, I'd had the break, because all you're doing, you're thinking about them, whatever's going on, and who am I doing, parent, who am I sending to what race, whatever, doesn't matter. It's that something out of work. We both love work, but it's not healthy staring at a computer, sitting in one place for hours upon hours a day. And that's why you need that break. And so there's different types of therapy. Music for me.
Yeah.
A massive one, you know. I think if you could summarize mine, it'd be dogs, pigeons, and music, which is an eclectic mix. Yeah. But that's what my break is. And it's things like with the, you know, the pigeons. A couple of weeks ago, we went to Portugal for a big race. I went with my son. I had a great 4 days.
Nice. Complete
turn off from thinking about others. Yeah, I still did a podcast interview for my racing pigeon channel, but I enjoy that stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So therapy can come in different ways.
Definitely.
You know, that's the thing.
I think above all, like the way I summarize it now, and again, this has been something a mentor's helped me with, is like, you've got to put, and this sounds selfish to some respects, but I think there has to be an element of this. You've got to put you at the top of the list. Like, you've got to put yourself first. Like, because I think it's so easy in business to prioritize everything and everyone, and you come at the bottom. You know, how many times do we work and then realize we forgot to have lunch? You know, how many times do we work and realize we've not spent much time with our partner or seen our friends? How many times have we cancelled seeing people that we scheduled to see because it's like, I'm sorry, I just got to get this stuff done? And we're talking about cancelling a 2 hours away from the computer. And it's like, but that becomes so normal and it gets normalized. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you have to just dig your heels in, cut everything else off and get stuff done. There are seasons for that. But at the end of the day, especially in businesses like ours, at the end of the day, if we're not in a good place or in a good way or even thinking clearly, everything else will crumble anyway. Because, you know, we are the captain of the ship, regardless of how many people, if any, you've got working for you. They require leadership. The business requires leadership. And, you know, if you're in situations like ours, it's like you are the captain of the ship. So if the captain's not had his rest, if the captain's not seeing clearly, if the captain's not plotting the right course, the ship will go off track and the ship will eventually crash and sink. You know, and that's kind of how I see it now. The analogy
of if the plane's going down, put your own oxygen mask on first. Then
yes, yeah, very true. Yeah, because Because why? Because you're going to be no good to anyone else if you pass out. It's like, so there we go. And I think that's just, that's just a big lesson I've learned now is like, okay, I've got to prioritize some of me at the top of this list, which is why now, like I say, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Yeah, I start early, but now I leave this place at between 2 and 3 in the afternoon instead of working till 6. That is now my time. I'm at the gym, I'm playing sports.
Yeah, we talked on this. So what's a typical day for you like now? Because what I don't know is one of the things you tried to do, which I'm guilty of not doing, you go to the office, but when you leave that office, that's separate time. I don't do that as much. I've got my laptop even while I'm watching TV, which is not necessarily the right thing to do. But what's a typical day, would you say, for you now?
Yeah, typical day. Like I say, I will I get up at it's been a little later now, the winter's coming in. I was getting up between 4 and 5 when the sun was rising early, but now it's between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. I'll get up, get ready, get showered. I have breakfast now. I never used to have breakfast. I was an intermittent faster, but I've realized I've got a certain health thing that means it's healthier for me to have breakfast. So I have a little healthy breakfast that consists of, I can get really boring with you. It consists of 3 pieces of turkey bacon and some egg whites. So I have that every morning for breakfast. I come into the office, fire up the computer. I've got a task management, project management system now. Take a look at the day. I've got all my tasks in there that I need to get done for that day. And I get to work. I crack on with it. Now, I can't sit here and say I'm perfect. I don't get distracted. I do. There's stuff in my day. It's not like I'm one of those ruthless, disciplined people that's like, I do my stuff and I'm gone.
No, but the power of the to-do list is massive.
Oh, yeah, huge.
By my to-do list. What's got to be done today, what has to be done this week, what can wait is normally what I look at in a day. And you never get everything done as you want, but you've got to have that discipline of knowing.
Yeah, definitely. And I as much as it's online, I still have the pen and paper to-do list as well. Because this is the stuff now where it's like, right, what pops up during the day that I'm like, oh, that's not in the system, but I need to do that. It's like today, there was 3 things this morning, like, oh, I must do those things. Let me get them done. And I've ticked them off. Look, you can see there's ticks next to them. So I'm trying to be more disciplined with that. So I'll get the stuff done. Obviously, I'm in here with the team. So there's meetings that happen throughout the day, like having a call with you, for example. I don't do a lot of stuff like this, but, I have meetings.
I'm privileged that I managed to actually get a date.
I mean, I'm the reason this didn't take place for such a long time, aren't I? Let's be honest. So it's like, meetings during the day. I meet with people running our advertisements in both companies. So we have meetings multiple times a week for that. I'm having meetings with other areas of the business that I'm looking at. And just generally speaking, that's it. I mean, I'm working to a plan now. I mean, I think one of the things that's changed over the years, I was very much day to day, week to week for a long time. Now I'm quarter to quarter. I'm like, right, what are we working on for the next 3 months? What's the main projects of the next 3 months? How are we going to get there? And again, this is an ongoing process for me. Don't get me wrong. We're currently working to get better at those things. So we know, like, right, this is what the next 3 months looks like. How do we get there? I'm now budgeting, like, what's the marketing spend this month or this quarter? Based on how many customers do we want to get, based on the outcome that will provide. You touched on it earlier. We know our numbers now, so we can forecast a little better. We can plan a little better. So generally speaking, that's it. And like I say, 3 times a week, I'm leaving the office between usually around about 3 p.m. And I'm doing an hour in the gym on those days, followed by an hour of badminton with a friend. So I'm now putting in, and then I'm doing 1 weekend day. So 4 times a week, I'm putting in exercise now. So that's about 7 or 8 hours a week of fitness to improve myself in that way. And that tends to be how I go about things. And I try and keep that to what I find now is like, if I used to fall apart Fridays, Saturdays, meaning stay up really late, maybe eat some bad food Friday, Saturdays. And I still sometimes eat stuff I wish I didn't, stepping out of line on my trying to eat properly. But I maintain I go to bed at like 9:30, 10 p.m. generally now and wake up 5, 6 a.m. So I try and maintain that 7 days a week now, even on Saturdays and Sundays, because I find that I enjoy that. That's typically it. Like I say, it's quite to be honest, I always laugh that it's like, oh, I could never create a reality show because my life's really dull.
Yeah, but it's the life you want, and it's the life you've entered.
It is.
That's good.
It is, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I do what I enjoy. You touched on it with yourself earlier. You said, out of the last number of years, you're in the best position currently mentally, etc. And I say the same with me. I feel the healthiest I've felt in a long time. I'm more driven than I've been in a long time. I'm enjoying what I do more than I have in a long time. And everything's very good, I got to say.
A couple quick more questions. Apart from your own, is there any other books you'd recommend to people?
I've got a different philosophy around books now. I won't give a long answer on this to take too much time, but I used to read books for the sake of reading books. It was like, right, I want to read, 2 books a week. And I've got so many books. I mean, that's nothing that's behind me. You should see next to my bed, and it's just all over the place. Now I have a different approach. I will only read something if I can implement it now, if it's like something now. So I would say the book you should read is the one that solves a problem you're currently facing. So a lot of people ask for like, what's the top 10 books you've read so I can buy them? Buy the book and read the book that's going to make the most difference today. Some of the ones that I already mentioned one, because of where I've been at, the financial managing money was a huge element to me. So I think Mike Michalowicz's books, he's got Profit First. He's got another couple of ones. I would totally recommend him as an author, and his books have been very helpful for me.
Cool, man. Couple more questions and then I'll let you go. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Get the right help sooner.
There you go.
Yeah. I got myself into a lot of debt, not getting help. And still to this very day, I take too long getting stuff done because I don't have the answers. And there are people out there with them already. Yes, you might have to invest and spend some money. But in my experience, if that is available to you somehow, some way, the time you will save from doing that, if you make good use of it, is going to pay for itself over and over again. And life goes by a bit quick. And I think, I've spent a lot of money, lost a lot of money, but I've got that back. You can never get back the time that was lost.
Good answer, man. Thank you for this. It's been, I'm sure people listening and watching this will get many different things out of it, which is the whole purpose of the Get Real. It's been honest. It's been raw. It's been real. And thank you. If people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
I think I've got, it's funny. I don't know. I think deanholland.com probably has a couple of links to some of our stuff on there, Yeah, find me on there. I think probably easy.
Cool, man. Well, thank you again.
No, thank you. No, great hanging out.
Great. No, it has been really powerful. I think what I like about you is you are real and you tell it as it is. And there's some stuff people wouldn't talk about, but you do, which I like.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey in business, and I think can be a bit of a lonely game. We can often feel like, why is this just happening to me? Because nobody openly talks about the stuff they're going through. So I think if I could do anything from my experiences to tell the full truth about everything. Yeah, there's so many good things about being in business, and like you said earlier on, we wouldn't be able to have it any other way. But the truth is, in getting the good, it comes with some bad. And to anyone that's going through the bad right now, you're not on your own. There's so many others. Keep going. Indeed.
Thanks, man. Thank you again.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Get Real podcast with Mark Lyford. Being an entrepreneur isn't all glitz and glamour. Entrepreneurs are some of the most hardworking people in the world. And within entrepreneurship, there's life, mental health, business, ups and downs. And that's why we exist. Our passion is to talk about all of it with no BS. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. Find Mark on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube at Mark Lyford. And be sure to hit the website, realentrepreneur.com. From there, get his book. You won't be disappointed. See you next time on Get Real.